Kindness is universally celebrated as one of the highest virtues. Across cultures and religions, we hear the timeless wisdom, be kind, for everyone you meet is fighting a battle you cannot see. It's a beautiful idea, a guiding light in a world often filled with challenges and misunderstandings. Kindness, we're told, can heal wounds, build bridges, and create harmony. But what happens when this kindness doesn't yield the results we expect? What happens when it's met not with gratitude, but with indifference? Worse yet, what do we do when our acts of generosity are exploited, misunderstood, or even dismissed as weakness? Imagine offering your time, energy, and goodwill over and over, only to find yourself undervalued. You begin to wonder, is something wrong with me? Or is it kindness itself that is flawed? This isn't a problem unique to our time. Even the Buddha, despite his boundless compassion, faced ridicule and resistance. Zen masters, too, have long taught that kindness, when unbalanced, can lead to disharmony. The problem isn't kindness itself, it's how we approach it. This paradox invites us to question the true nature of kindness. Is it enough to simply give? Or does true kindness require something deeper, an understanding of balance, boundaries, and self-respect? In this video, we'll dive into these questions through a Zen-inspired lens. We'll uncover a timeless story of a disciple who struggled with this very dilemma, explore the teachings of balance and boundaries, and offer actionable insights to help you navigate the complexities of kindness in your own life. By the end of this journey, you'll see kindness not as a simple act, but as a powerful practice, one that can transform not only how others treat you but how you value yourself. Stay with us, because the lessons ahead may just reshape your understanding of compassion, respect, and strength in ways you never imagined. Kindness, while inherently virtuous, can sometimes produce outcomes far from its intention. The Buddha emphasized that compassion lies at the heart of a harmonious life. Yet he also warned that compassion without wisdom could lead to unintended imbalance. Why does this happen? The answer lies in human nature. Generosity, though universally admired, is often misunderstood. For many, an act of kindness is perceived as a reflection of virtue, a strength of character that commands respect. However, others may interpret it as a sign of vulnerability or submission, mistaking kindness for a lack of strength or resolve. This misunderstanding doesn't stem from kindness being flawed, but from the way humans navigate relationships and power dynamics. People respond to kindness based on their own values and perspectives. Those with a balanced outlook may reciprocate kindness with gratitude and respect, fostering mutual growth. Yet, others may see consistent kindness as an opportunity to take advantage, assuming the giver is naive, overly eager to please, or afraid to say no. This is why Zen philosophy insists on the importance of balance. The concept of yin and yang, complementary forces of softness and strength, teaches us that kindness, when practiced without discernment or self-awareness, risks devolving into self-sacrifice. Kindness that overflows without boundaries can leave the giver drained and the receiver dependent. In such cases, the very harmony kindness seeks to create is disrupted. True kindness is not about endlessly giving or pleasing. Instead, it is about maintaining an equilibrium that uplifts both the giver and the receiver. Kindness should empower, inspire, and nurture, not diminish the one who offers it or create unhealthy dependencies in those who receive it. Balancing compassion with self-respect ensures that kindness remains a powerful force for connection and mutual growth, rather than an act that leaves either party weakened. In the serene mountain monastery, the young disciple stood out for his remarkable dedication to helping others. Every day, he went above and beyond, carrying heavy loads for his peers, offering his meals to the hungry, and never hesitating to lend a hand, even for the most unreasonable requests. To him, this was an embodiment of the teachings of compassion, an unwavering commitment to serve and uplift others. At first, his actions were met with admiration. His fellow disciples lauded his generosity, speaking of his kindness as an example for all to follow. Their words of praise gave him a sense of fulfillment. reinforcing his belief that he was living in alignment with the monastery's teachings. But as time passed, something unexpected began to unfold. The same people who once admired his kindness started to take it for granted. Small tasks were left undone, with the quiet assumption that he would complete them. Some even began to treat him with less respect, speaking to him harshly or making unreasonable demands, knowing he wouldn't refuse. Confusion clouded his heart. Wasn't his kindness meant to bring harmony? Instead, he felt used, unappreciated, and increasingly invisible. Each act of service, once a source of joy, became a burden. One evening, carrying the weight of his disillusionment, the disciple approached his master. Bowing deeply, he asked, "Master, I have tried to be kind in all things, but it seems to bring me only disrespect. Am I failing to understand the teachings of compassion?" The master listened patiently, a soft smile playing on his lips. "You are not failing," he replied, "but there is something you must learn. Let me tell you a story." With those words, the master began a tale that would forever change the disciple's understanding of kindness, boundaries, and self-respect. The master continued, "The river began its journey with pure intention, flowing freely to give life to everything it touched. The animals came to drink, and the river welcomed them without hesitation. The trees, nourished by its water, grew tall and strong. Travelers who wandered through the forest found solace on its banks, their thirst quenched, their spirits renewed. For a time, the river felt fulfilled, believing its generosity created a thriving, harmonious ecosystem. But gradually, the balance shifted. The animals grew careless, trampling the riverbanks and muddying the once clear waters. The travelers, instead of respecting the river's gifts, discarded their waste along its edges. The trees, whose roots had grown deep and strong, began to draw more water than they needed, leaving the river weaker each day. Finally, the river, tired and depleted, could bear it no longer. It cried out to the forest, "Why have you turned my kindness into exploitation? I have given everything to sustain you, yet you disregard my needs and leave me drained." The forest responded, "You never set boundaries. Dear river, your generosity seemed endless, and we assumed it came without limits. If you do not define how much you can give, how will others know when to stop?" The master paused, letting the weight of the story settle in. "Do you see, my disciple? The river's kindness was not wrong, but it lacked wisdom. Without boundaries, even the most noble intentions can lead to imbalance." The disciple leaned closer, his curiosity piqued. "What should the river have done, Master?" The master's smile deepened. "It is not selfish for the river to protect itself. It could have learned to guide its waters wisely, giving to those in need while ensuring it had enough to sustain its own life. True kindness flows from strength, not depletion. To create harmony, we must know when to give and when to hold back." With these words, the disciple began to see kindness in a new light, not as a boundless act, but as a practice of balance and wisdom. The disciple's journey reveals a profound truth. Kindness, while a noble virtue, must be guided by self-awareness and balanced with boundaries to achieve its full potential. Without these elements, even the purest intentions can lead to unintended consequences, draining the giver and disempowering the receiver. Self-awareness, the foundation of kindness. True kindness begins with understanding your own motivations. Before offering help or saying yes to a request, pause and ask yourself, "Why am I doing this?" Is your action driven by genuine compassion, or is it rooted in a desire to be liked, avoid conflict, or gain approval? When kindness stems from fear or insecurity, it becomes reactive rather than purposeful. It may even result in resentment when your efforts are taken for granted. In contrast, kindness that comes from a place of inner strength is deliberate, mindful, and empowering. It acknowledges both your capacity to give and your right to preserve your own well-being. Boundaries as a form of respect. Boundaries are often misunderstood as barriers, but in reality, they are acts of respect, both for yourself and for others. Setting clear limits signals that your kindness is a conscious choice, not an obligation. It protects your emotional health and helps maintain a sense of balance in relationships. Without boundaries, kindness can lead to exhaustion and imbalance, as others may unknowingly take advantage of your generosity. For example, saying no to an unreasonable request does not diminish your compassion. It reinforces your self-respect and teaches others to value your time and effort. A healthy boundary allows you to give from a place of abundance rather than depletion, ensuring that your kindness remains sustainable. Empowering others through kindness. Kindness should uplift both the giver and the receiver. When you help someone, the goal isn't to take over their responsibilities, but to support them in finding their own strength. This distinction is crucial. For instance, continually solving problems for someone without encouraging them to take ownership can create dependency. Over time, this diminishes their ability to grow and face challenges independently. Instead, mindful kindness involves offering guidance and resources while allowing the other person to take responsibility for their own actions. Empowering kindness inspires mutual respect and fosters growth. It teaches others that they are capable, while reinforcing your role as a supportive but self-respecting presence in their lives. By cultivating self-awareness, setting boundaries with love, and practicing kindness that empowers, we transform generosity from an obligation into a powerful, harmonious force. This balance ensures that kindness not only uplifts others, but also nurtures our own well-being. The disciple set out on his new challenge, carrying the master's advice close to his heart. As he walked into the village, he resolved to help where needed, but to observe carefully how people responded and how he felt during each interaction. At first, the disciple reverted to his old habits, saying yes to every request. A villager asked him to carry a heavy sack of grain, and he obliged. Another sought his help repairing a cart, and he quickly agreed. Yet, as the day unfolded, he began to notice subtle patterns. Some villagers received his assistance with warmth and gratitude, offering heartfelt thanks. Their appreciation brought him a sense of connection and fulfillment. Others, however, showed no such gratitude. Instead, they made demands as though his help was expected, not a gift. Some even grew bolder, asking for more assistance without acknowledgement of his efforts. It was then that the disciple remembered the master's words about boundaries. With newfound awareness, he decided to try something different. When a particularly unreasonable request was made, one that would clearly deplete his energy or time, he politely declined. At first, this felt uncomfortable, as though he was betraying his nature. But to his surprise, the reactions varied. Those who truly respected him accepted his refusal with understanding. In fact, some even seemed to admire him more for asserting himself, recognizing him as an equal rather than a servant. On the other hand, those who had exploited his kindness grew angry, revealing their frustration not at being wronged, but at losing the control they once held over him. As the disciple reflected on these interactions, he began to understand the master's teaching more deeply. By setting boundaries, he had not diminished his kindness, but had given it purpose and strength. The journey opened his eyes to the importance of mindful generosity, an approach that honored both his compassion and his self-respect. Let's bring these teachings into the realities of modern life, where the balance between kindness and boundaries is often tested in different forms. The overworked friend. Imagine a friend who always says, yes. Need help moving furniture? They're there. Need assistance with a last-minute project? They drop everything to help. At first, their generosity is met with gratitude and admiration, much like the disciple in the story. But as time goes on, their consistent willingness to help begins to be taken for granted. Requests become demands, and the friend finds themselves overwhelmed, with little time left for their own needs or priorities. They start to feel unappreciated and resentful, but fear that saying no might hurt their relationships. Eventually, the friend decides to set boundaries. They begin to say no to requests that feel unreasonable or overly taxing. Some relationships improve as others start respecting their time and effort. However, some people who had grown accustomed to their endless availability drift away. While this may initially feel painful, it's a necessary step toward healthier, more balanced connections. The compassionate leader. In a professional setting, consider a leader who strives to support their team in every way possible. They listen attentively, offer help with workloads, and go out of their way to foster a positive environment. However, when they avoid saying no to unrealistic demands or fail to hold individuals accountable, the balance within the team begins to falter. Some team members may take advantage of this leniency, while others feel frustrated by the lack of fairness. Over time, the leader realizes that their desire to maintain harmony is creating imbalance. By learning to balance empathy with firmness, they start saying no when necessary and setting clear expectations. They ensure that everyone contributes equitably, earning respect and creating a more harmonious team dynamic. This balance between compassion and decisiveness strengthens the leader's effectiveness and inspires mutual respect. The lesson in both examples. These stories illustrate the disciples' journey in real-world scenarios. Kindness, when practiced without boundaries, risks being undervalued or exploited. But when combined with self-respect and wisdom, kindness becomes a transformative force. The overworked friend and the compassionate leader both demonstrate that boundaries do not diminish kindness, they enhance it. They refine generosity, ensuring that it uplifts both the giver and the receiver while fostering stronger, more authentic relationships. In this balance lies the true strength of kindness, a lesson as relevant today as it was in the disciples' time. In Zen philosophy, water is the ultimate symbol of balance. Soft enough to adapt and flow effortlessly around obstacles, yet powerful enough to carve mountains over time. This duality perfectly illustrates the nature of kindness when it is practiced with self-respect and wisdom. True kindness, like water, is not rigid. It bends and adapts to the needs of the moment, offering compassion and understanding where they are most needed. But its softness does not imply weakness. Kindness rooted in wisdom maintains its strength, setting boundaries where necessary to protect itself from depletion or misuse. When kindness flows without limits, much like a flood, it can overwhelm or lose its purpose. Conversely, when kindness is withheld entirely, it becomes a drought, leaving others unsupported and disconnected. The key is to strike a balance, allowing kindness to flow freely but channeling it with intention and awareness. Imagine someone who offers support to a friend in need but also respects their own limits. They are present and compassionate, but do not overextend themselves to the point of exhaustion. Their kindness uplifts not only the friend, but also preserves their own well-being, ensuring they can continue to give meaningfully in the future. This balance of strength and softness makes kindness sustainable. It empowers others while maintaining the giver's inner harmony. It fosters mutual respect, as boundaries teach others to value both the act of giving and the one who gives. In relationships, work, and community, this approach to kindness inspires trust and admiration. Like water, it adapts to each situation without compromising its core essence. Kindness rooted in strength and wisdom not only brings harmony to the world, but also cultivates a deep and unshakable peace within ourselves. As the disciple sat in quiet contemplation, he replayed the moments of his journey in the village, the gratitude he had received, the frustrations he had faced, and the newfound respect he had earned by setting boundaries. For the first time, he understood a profound truth. The disrespect he had encountered in the past was never a reflection of his kindness, but a result of the imbalance in his approach. He had given endlessly, without regard for his own well-being, and in doing so, had inadvertently taught others to undervalue his efforts. With this realization, the disciple felt a deep sense of liberation. By integrating wisdom into his kindness, he had discovered a strength he didn't know he possessed. Saying no when needed had not only restored harmony in his relationships, but also strengthened his self-respect. His kindness was no longer a quiet cry for approval, but a conscious offering, rooted in balance and purpose. This story is a mirror for many of us. How often do we face similar struggles, pouring ourselves into acts of kindness only to feel drained, unappreciated, or misunderstood? Life constantly challenges us to balance compassion with strength, generosity with self-respect, and openness with boundaries. Through mindfulness, we can transform these challenges into opportunities for growth. By reflecting on our actions and motivations, we learn that true kindness is not about pleasing everyone. It's about offering our compassion in a way that uplifts both ourselves and others. The Master's final words to the disciple carry timeless wisdom. Let your kindness bend with the world, but never lose the roots of self-respect and wisdom. In these words lies the essence of harmony, the delicate dance of giving and preserving, of adapting and standing firm. As we navigate our own journeys, may we remember this lesson. Kindness, when practiced with balance and mindfulness, is a source of infinite strength, capable of transforming relationships, communities, and even ourselves. Thank you for being part of this journey today. If this message resonated with you, please share your thoughts in the comments below. Don't forget to subscribe for more insights and lessons from Zen and Buddhist teachings. Together, let's create a life rooted in balance, harmony, and kindness.